So, it's official. Liverpool are the champions of England. This is their first ever Premier League title and their first domestic title since 1992. Who ever thought all those years ago that one of the most successful teams in England would have to wait nearly 3 decades to rule the country again? Indeed, this title triumph has come after years of heartbreak and false dawns. Who remembers that moment when Steven Gerrard's slip cost the Reds a title? Now that was quite the season. The Merseysiders were doing amazingly well, scoring goals for fun and dominating teams. Sadly for Liverpool and then manager Brendan Rodgers, their iconic captain's slip put Demba Ba through on goal, and the rest is history. Last season, Liverpool were superb and were whiskers away from winning the title, but Manchester City were far too good and the team needed a bit more about them to finally end their trophy drought, and that came this season. This season, Liverpool have been hands down the best team in England and, dare we say, perhaps in the entire continent, sweeping teams left, right and centre. The juggernaut of an entity created by Jurgen Klopp showed no signs of stopping. Anfield was a fortress, while visiting from home was treated as just another day at work, with the likes of Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah, Roberto Firmino and others getting the job done professionally. Scoring against the Liverpool defence was a rare sight, and you can forgive the Premier League fantasy players for choosing the likes of Virgil van Dijk, Alisson Becker, Andrew Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold as the defensive elements in their squads. All these men brought fantasy players tons of points due to the fact that these players scored goals, provided assists. Even Alisson joined the party, providing an assist for Mohamed Salah's goal in the grudge game against Manchester United. We all thought that Liverpool might go undefeated the entire season and make Arsenal's Invincibles achievements look ordinary, and who would blame us for that? The Reds were just that good. However, it was lowly Watford who finally got the better of them and put 4 goals past Klopp's super-tuned defensive unit, but that was nothing but a small scratch in an otherwise unforgettable campaign. While that defeat did not impact the club's run towards an unprecedented title triumph, it did break a particular myth that had been around for the last several months. Liverpool can be beaten and are just like any other team that can have a bad day at work. Indeed, the performance in their last game before the lockdown against Atletico Madrid showed that there are times when Liverpool can give teams the chance to score against them. The Reds were knocked out of the competition at home and actually conceded 3 goals against Diego Simeone's side. Before the suspension of top-flight action, Liverpool had all but wrapped up their title assault and needed only 2 wins to be officially crowned champions. They resumed football with a drab goalless draw in the Merseyside derby against Everton before thrashing Crystal Palace 4-0. The title was already sealed by then thanks to Chelsea's win over Manchester City. However, the last season's champions humiliated Liverpool at home, putting 4 goals past them without any response. Wins over Aston Villa and Brighton were followed by a draw against Burnley before a rare defeat at the hands of Arsenal. In the game against Chelsea, where Liverpool were officially going to be presented with the Premier League title, Klopp's men ran out 5-3 winners in what was definitely one of the most entertaining affairs since football resumed in England. However, that win once again shows that maybe, just maybe, cracks are starting to appear in this team and the Reds might have put a little bit too much effort this season. Now, we're not saying that there's a certain amount of effort that needs to be put to guarantee a title, but it does appear that Liverpool were running out of steam as the season drew to its conclusion. Klopp knows his best starting 11, which is a good thing, but on the other side of the spectrum, it shows that the German tactician isn't too sure about the options he has on the bench at the moment. Divock Origi inspired the team to Champions League glory last season, but the Belgian is unlikely to be given a serious run in the starting 11. If any one of Mane, Salah or Firmino is out injured, Liverpool will be devoid of a serious attacking threat. In a similar vein, Xherdan Shaqiri has always flattered to deceive whenever given a chance. The Swiss playmaker can be devastating when he's on song, but it's his consistency that's seen him spend a good part of the entire season sitting on the bench. In 8 league outings since the campaign resumed, the Reds have managed to accumulate only 14 points, and if the form of the other sides in the top half of the table is to be looked at, Liverpool would actually be lying in 5th place in the league standings. While this is just a small stat and shouldn't really be taken as a damning indictment on the club's recent form, it's clear that Liverpool are definitely going to find it hard to defend their title next season if they're unable to get out of the current phase. And that is the hallmark of the greatest sides in the world. When they were dominating the league, Manchester United never eased their foot off the gas. Sir Alex Ferguson was not one to allow complacency to set in, and the great Scot ensured that players were as motivated as ever once they returned for pre-season on the back of a title triumph. Jose Mourinho had a similar mentality, and his Chelsea side's performance levels were never in question during the Special One's first spell at Stamford Bridge. Juventus and Bayern Munich have been romping to league titles for the last 7 years, but both sides never take title defending seasons for granted, even though their fans might forgive them if they faltered every now and then. And this does seem to be a dilemma for Jurgen Klopp. The former Borussia Dortmund manager has become part of the club's history, but he needs to ensure that his achievements are not considered a one-off. At present, the whole city is basking in the glory of something that's eluded it for almost 30 years. However, a time will come when the club will have to move on from this honeymoon period and focus on consolidating their position as England's finest. Next season is not going to be an easy one if we're to look at how a few teams have fared in recent weeks. Chelsea have already spent good money on some truly talented players such as Hakim Ziyech and Timo Werner. Kai Havertz might be next, and we can safely say that Frank Lampard's first season as a Premier League manager is going to give him a lot of confidence heading into his second year at the Chelsea dugout. Pep Guardiola will definitely make a few shrewd signings after seeing his team put up a rather feeble defence of their title this season. United didn't have a great first half of the season, but Solskjaer's men have put themselves in a great position to finish inside the top 4. The likes of Martial, Mason Greenwood, Marcus Rashford, they've scored 10+ goals each. Bruno Fernandes is playing as if he's been at the club his whole life. The Red Devils are definitely going to be stronger next season, especially if they're able to sign a few of their long-term targets such as Jadon Sancho or Saul. Arsenal might not be spending a lot of money this summer, but the Gunners actually look like a different proposition under Mikel Arteta. The Spaniard is slowly stamping his authority at the Emirates, and the Londoners are unlikely to be pushovers next season. From a truly sporting perspective, it's been great to see a 5th different Premier League champion in the last 8 years. That's a great compliment to the league itself. But for Liverpool, it's imperative to continue from where they left off and aim to dominate the English footballing landscape like they did for most of the current campaign. And who can bet against that? They do boast one of the most reliable backlines in the game today. In Jorginho Wijnaldum, Jordan Henderson and Fabinho, they have 3 of the most hard-working midfielders you'll ever come across. And what else can we say about their attacking trio? Bench strength would be important moving forward. Klopp needs to sign a couple of good options for his bench in order to avoid the needless hassle of managing the well-being of a player who risks burning out. While Liverpool deserve to be where they are today, there's always the risk of a team peaking or simply choosing to step down a notch or two. In a league like the Premier League, that could prove to be perilous, and this is going to be Klopp's first target once his players return from pre-season after enjoying a well-earned break from the game.